Hello, my name is Daniel. In this video I'm going to explain how to download Python on your computer and create your first Python program. In this video I'm going to cover how to download Python, which is the language, how to download an IDE, which is a text editor. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So it not only allows you to write your code in a text editor, but it also allows you to check it for errors and run your programs. And then we're going to build a one-line program just to show how the editor works. So to begin, open up a web page or a web browser and go to Google and type in Python. It'll bring you to the Python website, which is python.org, and then you can click on Downloads. That'll bring you to the Downloads page, and these are all of the different versions of Python that have been released over the years, going back even over a decade. So if you go all the way to the bottom, the most popular and most used ones are here at the top, and it tells you when they're going to stop being supported by the website. And we want the most up-to-date version of Python, which is up here at the top, 3.8.6. So I use Windows, so I would click on this button, but if you're using Mac or Linux, you can click on these other links. So if you're using Mac, click on this. These would be all the releases for the Mac version. And then if you want to download Python for Linux, you click on this, and these are all the Linux versions. But I use Windows, so if I were to download Python, which is already installed on my computer, I would click on this button. And then Python would start downloading, and then you'd open it up, and then a window would pop up, and it would just ask you, do you want to install Python? You would click install, and then just click next. It'll set the default file path for you. You don't have to worry about that. And then as long as Python's installed somewhere on your computer, you will be able to use an IDE or text editor to write Python programs. So once that's downloaded, we need an IDE. So I'm going to go to Google again, type in PyCharm. It'll bring me to jetbrains.com, which has the PyCharm IDE. Click on PyCharm, click on download, and this is the download page for the IDE or the editor. So there's two versions. There's the community version and the professional version. We want the community version because it's a free download and it's used for educational purposes, or like hobbyists, things like that. The only time you want the professional version is if you're trying to build programs or applications that are used for some kind of financial gain. And usually there's documentation on the website that explains how much money you need to be making before you're required to use the professional version. But for now, since we're just using this for educational purposes, we're going to need the community version. So click on download. And then the download will start, and it'll take a few minutes. I'm going to cancel this because it's already on my computer. And then once PyCharm's downloaded on your computer and Python's downloaded on your computer, then you can build your first Python program. So I'm going to open up PyCharm. So when you open up PyCharm, it's going to ask you to create a new project, and just click Create or click Start. And then you should see, this is what the IDE looks like once it's created a new project. The project's on the left, the file collection. So this is all the project, but the main file we're going to be working on code in is main.py. Which is a Python file, and where we're going to be editing all our Python code. In the center is where we work on code. So let's say I had this statement, print hello world. So this statement would print hello world in the bottom of the editor, where all of the output of our program shows up. So if I wanted to see that output, I would click on the green arrow at the top right, and that says run, which runs our program. And then over here on the bottom, you can see we printed the statement hello world using the print keyword and putting in some text. So if I wanted to print 5 hello worlds, I would do this. I would put in 5 statements, and then I would run my program again. And then every time I run the program, it would execute the code I've written. So it's nothing's going to appear at the bottom until I click that button. But once I do, we see 5 hello worlds. So that's how you build your first Python program. This is just a simple set of print statements to print a message. Just one other thing about Python is in English we have a period denote the end of a sentence. So if you have some kind of statement, you would end it with a period to say this is the end of the statement. In C++, use a semicolon. So C++ is another coding language. So if you had a print statement like this in C++, the syntax is a little different. You would end it with a semicolon to be like this is the end of that statement. In Python, you don't put anything. You just begin a new line, and then each new line is a new statement in Python. So that's just one feature of Python that makes it look very clean when you're editing code. Python has a lot of features like that in the syntax that just make it clean to look at. That's why people like it a lot. So yeah, that's how you build your first Python program. You can use other text editors like IDEs like Visual Studio. Visual Studio is Microsoft's text editor, again IDE, and it looks a lot different, but well, not too much different. It's just like the coloring and stuff is different, but it lets you edit your code, run your own programs, and it can be used for Python. I've only used it for C++ before. I chose PyCharm for this video. And then just one other thing about Python versus other languages is if you're coding in C++, you're usually using, or you're always using, a compiler. And in Python, you're allowed to use an interpreter or a compiler. So in Python, when you use an interpreter, it will run all of the code up until your first error, and then it'll stop and tell you what the errors are in your program. If you use a compiler, the program isn't going to run even if some of the code is working unless the entire program runs. So just to show you what that looks like, since this is using an interpreter, if I have an indent here, that's going to throw an error, and then the line of the error is going to be spit out at the bottom where the program output is. It says line 2, there's an error, and it says there's an unexpected indent. So the reason that there's an error here is because indents are for blocks of code, and I'm not trying to assign a block of code to anything. So this indent doesn't do anything, so it's giving an error. So yeah, that's how you throw an error, and what an error looks like on the bottom. If I put it back to normal and I run, I don't get any errors, and I'll see both my hello world statements. So actually this my editor is set to compile mode, or it's a compiler in compiler mode. So that's why you didn't see any hello world. So if I printed out like 6 of these and I ran, you see 6 hello worlds, but then if I threw an error, you don't see any of the hello worlds because it's in compiler mode. But if you use an interpreter, you would see 5 hello worlds, and then you would see the error after it, because interpreters always run up to the first line of the first error line. The benefits of compilers are usually they're easier to work with bigger collections of files, but an interpreter lets you see coding errors a lot more easily because it'll stop the code and throw an error at the line the line it stops working. So yeah, that's just a basic introduction to how to download an IDE, how to download Python, and build your first Python program. If you want to check out more about Python, you can check out coding-bootcamps.com, where we cover the language and we go over instructional videos and offer teaching instructional videos for different things on Python. So yeah, if you wanted this, if you enjoyed this video and you want to check out more about Python, you can check out coding-bootcamps.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.